So obviously, we got to start with where things ended because you expressed that, and this was far from a new feeling you had experienced for the second half of the game, that you were coming into the final tribal council with a bit of an uphill battle, and they even acknowledged at the after show, like it was certainly an admirable fight. Give me your reaction as final tribal council was going along. You know, you are trying everything, as was kind of your adage throughout the game. Did you feel like your chances were increasing, or by the time you made that closing statement, did you still think, okay, this was basically my pitch for $100,000 rather than a million?
No, yeah, I could feel it shifting in the moment. I knew I was going in and fighting an uphill battle, sort of like with all of the stuff that Rachel had that were tangible for the jury. Like the jury has seen Rachel wear the necklace. They've seen her play an idol. They've seen some of these big loud things that she's done throughout the game. That I was going to have to fight against that, and I was going to really have to, get in there and own it for as long as that tribal lasts. I thought I had a good shot at getting Kyle. I thought I had a good shot at getting Sierra and Gabe.
Hmm.
Were votes that I felt like were really leaning like they could go my way. And then as the tribal council went on, I started to feel like both Andy and Teeny were in question as well, and were really starting to consider my side of things, and Andy especially. So as Jeff went and got those votes, he comes back and I had some fear that it was going to be a tie, and I knew I didn't have Sue. I was kind of doing jury math in my head. Rachel was doing jury math in her head, and yeah, I was feeling a 5-3-4-4 sort of split. It really did feel up in the air all the way until seven Rachel.
Well, let's talk about what kind of prompted this move because it really does seem like it's a tale of two games between the pre-merge and the post-merge. And in the post-merge, you were able to, string together a couple of impressive things when you were in power. Obviously, we'll talk about those, but it really did seem like you went from the glue guy to kind of just the glue melting away once that Sierra vote happened, and you really had to pivot. Talk to
Yeah.
me about that, about having to play such a pivotal part of the game so individually, so from the bottom, and basically scrapping away every day just to make it to the next sunrise.
Yeah, well, it's really hard and it's really emotionally draining and taxing. I mean, it's such a raw and vulnerable place to be, starving in Fiji, playing this game that we all have such high aspirations and dreams for. But it's also that first feeling of getting blindsided, that first punch in the mouth that you take, makes you feel very lonely. But for me, it was the realization that I'm the only person here that actually has my own back. Everybody's not rooting for Sam. Everybody's rooting for themselves. And so, I need to find a way to pull myself out of this bottom position, play aggressively, even if it doesn't seem like I can play aggressively, to take some more control back. Because if I want a shot at winning the game, I'm not going to be able to just get strung along for votes. So yeah, it was definitely a pivot and approach that I had to take. I started being ultra honest with people about where I was at in the game to sort of lower my threat level, just trying to do enough to keep relationships open to flip the game when it mattered, and tried to make a run at it at the end.
Well, someone that might have stood in your way and someone who you kind of had this really complicated relationship with was Rachel. I mean,
Mm,
when by the time that you enter the post merge, like you were both left out of the Sierra vote, but you had left her out of the Annika vote. There's
yeah,
that moment where she tells you about the Saul vote and you go to spill it. And then obviously by the end, it bears out even in this final tribal council where the two of you are going at each other, acknowledging each other as the biggest threats. So talk to me about how you navigated that relationship. This idea of like, hey, we do have this kind of personal bond going on, but at
yeah.
the same time, I don't know if I really want to, have you see the next morning on this island.
Yeah, I mean, my relationship with Rachel is fascinating because it really did feel like little brother, big sister. I'm her annoying little brother that won't go away. She's the big sister that I'm always trying to get out of her shadow. We're always kind of fighting tooth and nail to take each other out and bother each other, and somehow make it to the end of the game without writing each other's names down. Rachel definitely wanted to work with me at Gata as part of this four-person alliance that I had with the three girls. And then when I decided that Annika needed to go and made my move against Annika, honestly, I was always sort of nervous about letting Rachel back in because
Hmm.
Rachel seemed to me like a player that was going to be smiling, saying all the right things, and coming for revenge later. And so I think I sort of kept Rachel at an arm's length, and was like, hey, I like you. We've got a relationship going. Sierra was sort of making us play nice for a little bit, but I don't fully trust you. So then after Sierra gets voted out, Rachel and I have a moment that is actually shown on the show that I loved, where we hug and we just are like, "Hey, good luck. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, yeah.
you'll
You say
go
you said
your way."
like I hope you stay safe. We can't work together.
Yeah, it was like you go your way, I'll go mine. She kind of went over with the Tukus. I tried to get back in with the Lavos. We split up, and I think we kept trying to find pathways back towards working together. And for me, I felt like I had a much better relationship at that point with Genevieve. I think Rachel felt like she had a much better relationship with Caroline and Sue. And so our games started becoming independent of one another. And because of that, also became threatening to one another. So as much as I think we would have liked to have some sort of come together, work together moment. Around that point, that Saul vote is when I realized this isn't going to happen anymore. And I need to stop waiting for the perfect moment for Sam and Rachel to start being, back on the same page.
Let's talk about the other part of this complicated Gotta triangle in Andy, because again, this is yet another one where you're on the same page, you're in different chapters of the book. You do come back together towards the end, of course, with the whole Operation Italy of it all, but it's very interesting because Andy basically single-handedly flips away from you, feeling a little undermined, feeling a little
Yeah.
stymied in the pocket of it all. So how did you navigate all of that, especially coming back to camp, knowing and finding out how this guy had felt about the way that you had kind of been treating him up to that point?
Yeah, I was really confused by it in the moment, because we had sort of talked at Gata about what we wanted our merge strategy and play to be.
Hmm.
And Andy was very on board with the idea of pretending like Andy was on the bottom.
Right.
And so that was something that he was very excited about, something that I thought would work very well. And so part of the idea of throwing out a Andy's name for a Hinky vote or being like, hey, Saul, I'd rather work with you than Andy was very much for me to keep this illusion of, hey, God is not strong. We're not actually with Andy. Andy's an outsider here. Like, and I was hoping that that would be enough to help the target stay off of Gata. I think the mistake that I made was not checking in regularly with Andy throughout those periods of time, and maybe method acting a little bit too seriously, where I didn't check in, and then it started to make him be like, "Wait a minute, I thought this was a joke. Are we still joking about this, or are you guys actually trying to not play with me anymore?" Um, but for me, I kind of perceived Andy as somebody who really wanted to be valued and respected by his peers. And so it was important for me for both personal and game reasons to sort of navigate moving forward, keeping that line of communication open with Andy, but letting Andy know that I messed up. That was a mistake. I didn't I wasn't the ally or friend to him that I should have been at that stage in the game. And I was very intentional about that because you never know when you're going to need Andy to flip from a 5-person majority alliance and help you flip the game.
On that note, it seems like, you did a recent interview with Dalton where you kind of shed some light how there were some things you were able to contribute to Operation Italy that we did not necessarily get to see.
Yeah.
So, once again, much like Final Tribal Council, I'll cede the floor to you. Talk to me about this, what the specific role that you got to play in this giant piece of theater that was Operation Italy.
Yeah, Operation Italy was so fun. And, right after Kyle went home, I actually talked to Genevieve that morning and was like, hey, I know this is going to sound crazy, but what if we did a fake idol? We got him to split the vote. We did a 3-2-2. We put I feel like it's our only chance. And she was kind of like, yeah, that is our only chance. And so then we got to scheming and thinking about, well, who is our best bet to be our
Mm.
third? And Genevieve really wanted it to be Teeny. I really wanted it to be Andy. I felt like I had the best working relationship with Andy of anybody in the five. I felt like Andy was the most willing to make a big move and the most capable. I had seen Andy play a part in a big scheme before. It was a week of us at Gata pretending like Andy was on the bottom Andy and I knowing that we were going to vote Annika out at the next tribal council we got. And he crushed it. So I knew he was super capable and had a great mind for the game. And so when I win the reward challenge, it was kind of my chance to be like, all right, well, I'm gonna, make sure that it's Andy and that it's not Teeny.
Oh,
I think it's
interesting.
why Teeny feels a little bit burned, because Genevieve and I had sort of been egging Teeny on that, like, hey, it's the three of us. We can flip against Rachel. And then for me to choose Andy instead of Teeny in front of Teeny for such a big reward like loved ones felt like a slap in the face of, you want me to be your vote in this like elaborate scheme of you staying
Hmm.
alive and you don't even want to take me on reward. So it was crazy because we pull Andy and then Andy comes to us and is like, hey, so I've been thinking, how do we feel about doing this, 3-2-2 with an idol? And Genevieve and I are kind of looking at each other like, are we in the Twilight Zone right now? What's going on? Like what, how is,
Oh, that's
how is
interesting.
Andy also on the exact same page as us? But sometimes the stars align like that in Survivor, and you've got a couple people with their games that are aligned and what's in their best interest are aligned.
Well, last thing I gotta ask is, it's obviously Survivor's a way to open up a bunch of new experiences, especially someone as young as yourself. Very rare that it opens up your palate as well. What's the fruit and vegetable diet been looking like since you got to explore all the
Yeah,
various flora and fauna in Fiji?
not all that different. I was in the Titans press box the other day and I did had a little bit of dragon fruit. So I'm branching out a little bit. I want it on record, Mike. I'm not a chicken nugget adult. Like I eat fruits and veggies here. Just I don't change what I know that I like. So if
Hmm.
I'm looking at a fruit spread and I see strawberries, bananas, and grapes, whatever, like that's where I'm going. I don't need to explore the new one. So I mean, when in Fiji, why not eat grubs, eat different fruits, see what you like, what you don't like. But no, I can't say the palate has changed all that much, unfortunately.
Well, that's the thing is that was kind of your game throughout was ironically enough this idea of try everything, and it was
Yeah,
so much fun to watch you get to do that. I mean, that fire making comeback, like that's something you can absolutely take home to the bank along with that 100K, and it was such a great effort in the end. It's such a great effort throughout. You know how much I love getting the chance to talk with you, man, and
yeah,
for you getting the opportunity to not only go out there but really showcase yourself, those highs and lows in so many ways, get that high in a lot of different ways was awesome to watch. And I'm so happy you walked out of this with your head held high. And I cannot wait to see what happens. Unfortunately, you certainly had a better season ender than the Titans did this year. So nowhere to
yeah,
go.
for sure, Mike. Man, I respect you so much. I appreciate you.
Likewise, man. Well, all the best to you and yours. Enjoy the rest of the year. Cannot wait to see what happens next with you, man. And happy holidays, Sam. Thanks so much again.
Cheers, sir. Happy holidays.
You will. Take care. Bye bye.